Welcome to the Knowledge Catalog. This is another video and its topic is under the biological sciences. If you are a public school student or a public school teacher in the Philippines, you may actually use this video as an advanced video lesson for Science 10, Living Things and Their Environment. It will specifically tackle third quarter, 7th learning competency, explaining how fossil records, comparative anatomy, and genetic information provide evidence for evolution. If you want to have a copy of this presentation, you may message me through my Facebook page. It's in facebook.com/knowledgecatalog/. Let's begin. Geologic time refers to the interval of time occupied by the geologic history of Earth. Geologic time is the kind of time that we are using to describe the different events that happened on our planet. And our basis for these is the geology of the Earth, the geosphere of the Earth. So, yung mga different layers, okay, from the surface up until we dig deeper and deeper, we see that there are different layers, okay, in the geosphere. From the surface, those are we'll see newer evidences of life, and then as you go deeper, you will see older evidences of life. Formally, geologic time began at the start of the Archaean Eon, which was 4.0 billion to 2.5 billion years ago. And then it still continues up until the present day. However, you will not see this actually in some references, especially if they're old. There is this particular eon that happened even before the Archaean Eon, and it is the Hadean Eon. Or not, because it is just added. It has been added just recently, siguro mga last year lang. It is just an informal interval that extends from about 4.6 billion years ago, which corresponds to the Earth's initial formation, and then up until 4.0 billion years ago until Archaean Eon starts. Yan. Geologic time is in effect that segment of Earth history that is represented by and recorded in the planet's rock strata. So let me repeat that yung surface, okay, everything that you will find on the surface of the Earth are, say, yung mga fossils, yung mga bones, yung mga rocks that are found near the surface of the Earth, that is, Earth as in yung lupa, are younger. Okay, everything on the surface are younger. Well, syempre, kung pilosopo ka, paano naman yung mga fossils na nasa surface? Okay, just, naturally, yung mga nasa surface of the planet, yung mga halimbawa, kakatumba pa lang nung tree, o kaya, kakaagnas pa lang ng isang animal, and then meron na lang siya natirang mga bones. So, those are younger compared to those trees and animals na namatay na, na-bury na like billions or millions of years ago. Okay, so those time were not something that we have observed ourselves. So what we're using now is we're just collecting evidences, and what we have seen is that as we go deeper, the surface from the surface of the planet, you will see that there are some fossilized plants and animals, even actually microscopic forms of life that tend to be found only at a specific layer, okay, of the geosphere. And through those evidences, we interpolated that perhaps they have lived on the same period of time. Now, speaking of time, when we say time here, we're going to talk about the different divisions of time. So if we are going to talk about the largest divisions of time, we're referring to them as eons. And then for the shorter periods of time, within those eons are eras. And then within those eras, we'll talk about periods. So let me repeat that eons are the largest intervals of geologic time. and are hundreds of millions of years in duration. Some naman, yeah, since hundreds of millions yan, we're referring to billions of years in duration. In the time scale in the previous slide, you will see that the Phanerozoic Eon is the most recent eon. So yeah, the Phanerozoic Eon is the most recent eon, and then okay, I just can't see my answer here. Okay, so it's, let me point it. And Phanerozoic is the most recent eon, and it is divided into the Paleozoic, the Mesozoic, and the Cenozoic eras. Ayan. So yeah, that is how they were divided. Eons are divided into smaller time intervals, as I've said, eras, and then eras are further divided into periods. May mga iba naman na tinatawag silang sub-periods, so they are within these periods. The events that bound the periods are widespread in their extent, but are not as significant as those which bound the eras. In the time scale, in the previous slide, you can see that the Paleozoic is subdivided into the Permian, Pennsylvanian, and Mississippian. Anyway, Pennsylvanian and Mississippian are, if I'm not mistaken, we are referring to these two as North American ways of telling time at that particular period. Devonian, Cedarian, Ordovician, and Cambrian or Cambrian Period. So the first eon is the Hadean Eon. It doesn't have an era. Wala rin siya, of course, niyan. Period. It is a time when the Earth is just being formed. There are numerous comets, numerous asteroids. Comets are our sources of water. Since they're icy, their collision with the planet was more or less where our water was coming from. Asteroids and meteoroids around the planet often crash with our planet. These collisions result to the steaming of water on the surface of the planet, again, which came from the comets. Okay? Siyempre, ano mag-i-steam kung walang water sa planet? So, some colliding rocks were even too hot that the surface melts. Okay, thus, no surviving rocks from this eon has survived, and thus we cannot fully describe what happened during this particular eon. But one thing's for sure, there is no sign of life whatsoever during this time, as far as the references I read are concerned. Okay, I'm just not sure if there were microfossils though from the Hadean Eon. You may actually share that with me on the comment section kung meron kayong idea. If you have an idea about any form of life that has existed during the Hadean Eon, and if you have your reference online, please share the link in the comment section. These unfavorable conditions hindered life during this eon. So as I've said, so major thing about the Hadean Eon is that we were not able to keep even rock evidences from this particular eon, because they were constantly being melted because of the high pressure and temperature even on the surface of the planet. The Hadean Eon was followed by the Archaean Eon, and the first era we're going to talk about is the Archaean Era. It is the earliest time following the Earth's solidification. It is the earliest. It followed the solidification of the planet. It's the first era. The Valbara, it is the first supercontinent, appeared around this period as well. So ang alam lang niyo lang sigurong supercontinent is Pangaea, pero there are actually different supercontinents in our geologic time. Valbara, Rodinia, Pangaea, then meron pang isa eh. Pangaea is that one that was divided into Gondwana and Laurasia, and those two are still big continents. The late heavy bombardment happened with heavy asteroids colliding with celestial bodies inside the solar system during this period. So the late heavy bombardment is when asteroids collided with our planet, okay, from that particular point of time. It is the first phase of our planet with surviving solid rock formations. Among them, you will find the largest Isua Greenstone Belt at the southwest coast of Greenland. So it is this photo right here, the Isua Greenstone Belt. Gaganda dyan, no? Parang, yeah. These places kasi are really big, so it's really fascinating how much evidence of life or how much evidence of time can we see from these big places, such as, you know, Greenland. After the previous era comes the Paleo-Archaean Era. What you see here in this photo are stromatolites. And so basically induced oxygen, biologically induced oxygen by a cyanobacteria from these stromatolites. This is known as the Great Oxygenation Event. Yeah, we cannot really say that they are photosynthetic, but one thing is for sure that these cyanobacteria were able to produce oxygen. And because, hindi pa naman ganun ka-rich ang life before, and hindi pa naman ganun kalaki ang demand for oxygen during this particular era, oxygen levels has quickly elevated. It is largely absorbed by the ground. This also suggests the formation of the first life forms. Microfossils kasi were discovered in hydrothermal vents of a Nuvvuagittuq belt of Quebec, Canada. So let's just say hydrothermal vents in Quebec, Canada. What we know about hydrothermal vents is that they are underwater vents, and they are since there are microfossils there, it means that they are just living near a part of the ocean where there is a very high temperature. Okay, so that is the kind of microfossils we are talking about here, and they were among the first life forms that were formed during those times. The next one in Archaean Eon is the Mesoarchaean Era. We often say Meso referring to middle, pero I don't really know why did we call this Mesoarchaean. Pero yeah, whatever. So the first supercontinent Valbara broke up during this time. So nasa Mesoarchaean era yung time na yun. The earliest reefs date back from this era. They were probably formed by stromatolites, contrary to the sponges that form most of our reefs today. Stromatolites were the first reef formers, especially in the time of the Mesoarchaean era. Nitrogen gas in the atmosphere, that is N2, dinitrogen. Okay, nitrogen gas, N2 or dinitrogen gas. Okay, it's found in the atmosphere and is estimated to be the same level as the levels that we have today. Remember that for us to be able to we are using, not really we are using it. In the natural cycles, nitrogen gas is fixed by nitrogen fixing microorganisms. Before plants can actually use nitrogen, kailangan mo na siya ma-fix. So what's my point? Why am I telling you that? That means that nitrogen gas that is being referred to here is not readily, it's not usable in this form by plant life. Okay, so the next one is the Neo-Archaean Eon. Yeah, so oxygenic photosynthesis first evolved during this period. So by saying oxygenic photosynthesis, aerobic. It's an aerobic process, releasing an abundance of oxygen, reacting with minerals, and then reacting with several greenhouse gases. Oh, I hope you're not surprised, because as we have been talking a lot in science that greenhouse effect, global warming, climate change is not fully the responsibility, not fully the fault of mankind. Well, our fault there is that we sped it up, okay, by being irresponsible. Well, I'm not really speaking for everyone, and my opinion does not reflect the opinion of the Department of Education, but as a citizen and as a concerned citizen, that is what I've seen. I see as our major problem. Good thing is that we are doing everything we can. No, not everything we can. We are doing some measures, observing some measures nowadays that will allow us to use alternative products that don't really harm the environment. Pero one thing is for sure, nature is also contributing to these processes, the greenhouse gases. Now, because of this, the Earth's surface was free to radiate its energy into space. We call this as the oxygenation of the atmosphere is called the oxygen catastrophe. Okay, we are done with the Archaean Eon. We now move to the Proterozoic Eon. The Paleoproterozoic Era is the first era here, and it is also the longest era in the entire geologic history of the planet. This is when the continents first stabilized. The anaerobic organisms, so organisms that don't need oxygen for them to thrive and survive, they thrived in pre-oxygen times. Okay, now before the time of the before this time, Archaean Eon, the Neo-Archaean, the organisms that only came into yung mga came into being lang ay yung mga organisms that don't really need oxygen. Before oxygen came into existence, or before it was produced in large amounts, yung mga, kung meron mang mga microfossils dyan na discovered, those are the microfossils of organisms that did not need oxygen. However, after the Neo-Archaean comes the Paleoproterozoic Era, it was discovered that these anaerobic organisms that thrived before actually were killed because of the oxygenation. Because, oxygen levels, they rose. Now, we call that as the Great Oxidation Event. Oxygen-resistant and those in sequestered or isolated environments, they survived. Yung mga organisms na yun, they survived. Pero those that are not oxygen-resistant and those organisms that were not placed in, isolated areas where oxygen can't reach them, they were wiped out. So many crowned eukaryotes dated back here. Now, under this era comes the following periods. First, this is the Cedarian Period. It's really fascinating how these landforms are, they look so beautiful. And so, deposition of banded iron, so that's the reason why it's this color. Deposition of banded iron formations peaked during this period and are caused by oxygen released by cyanobacteria interacting with iron. And that interaction between iron and oxygen, it formed this rust-looking thing. These rust-colored layers. Why are they rust-colored? It's because, they're rust, basically. I mean, chemically. Iron oxide. Magnetite. I hope you get that. Next one is the Triassic period. Well, it's it didn't really. This one is just a representation of my point. Pero next turn na dyan ang Hironian glaciation. So the icing of the planet has started during this period. Now observe this photo and you will see that it looks like a crater. Because it is a crater. A large asteroid collision formed the Vredefort crater. It is found in the Free State province of South Africa, and that collision happened during the Ordovician Period. This crater is still around nowadays. Now, this one looks like, may green, because that's an algae. Ravatasmia, which is this algae, claimed to be present in Cedarian beds in India, and it is the oldest known conformable eukaryotic organism. It was found in Cedarian beds in India, and those Cedarian beds were called so because they were believed to have been on the surface of the planet during the Cedarian Period. Okay, next is the Mesoproterozoic Era. I want you to observe that photo. Okay, so yes, correct, that those are still stromatolites. Okay, so Colombia supercontinent, another supercontinent, broke up during this time, and Rodinia supercontinent was formed. So from the Vialbara, nagform ang Colombia, and then after the Colombia comes the Rodinia. During this time, Mesoproterozoic Era, sexual reproduction evolved while communal living, that is, living in communities among multicellular organisms, also started. So we have already observed, we have already evidences of multicellular life before this era, and so those multicellular lives have started living in communities during this era naman. Also, nag-start na yung advent ng sexual reproduction. I must say that because of that too, nag-spark na yung ganito. Sexual reproduction has been one of the reasons why multicellular organisms are living in communities. Yeah, it's quite self-explanatory if you're gonna ask me. It was the height of the stromatolite life. So, dito na nag-peak yung life ng mga stromatolites. Okay, so periods under this, it's the first one is Kalimian Period. The supercontinent Colombia, which is this one, supercontinent Colombia, meron siyang South China, East Antarctica, magkatabi talaga sila dyan, ayan. So Greenland, West Africa, Amazonian, the North China is right here, South China is right there. This one's north. So yeah, go figure. It broke up. Okay, during the Kalimian Period. And then the Extinction Period naman has seen the following. The Bangiomorpha pubescens, which is the first taxonomically resolved organism capable of sexual reproduction, has lived during this period. It is an essential feature for complex multicellularity. Yung sexual reproduction here is an essential feature for complex multicellularity. You see that, simpler organisms such as bacteria, even to this day, have simpler means of reproduction. Whereas yung mga more complicated naman ng mga organisms, they have more complicated ways of reproduction. Yeah, so a more complicated way of reproduction, such as sexual reproduction, means a more complicated biological system, so multicellular, in the case of multicellular organisms. The Estinian period naman has seen the formation of Rodinia, another supercontinent. So we have here the different parts of Rodinia: Arabia, Sahara, Metacraton, Avalonia, Australia, among others. Yeah. So that ends this particular era. Next one is the Neoproterozoic Era, and yes, these are very familiar pictures for you, I guess. Yeah. So under the Proterozoic Eon, Neoproterozoic Era are the following periods. So the Cryogenian Period had the most severe glaciation events. So yung pinaka matinding pag-ice ng buong mundo happened during the Cryogenian Period. Ice sheets reaching the equator. So just imagine that they're not just staying in the poles. They are reaching the equator, making the planet a snowball. The phenomenon snowball Earth happened in the Cryogenian Period of the Neoproterozoic Era. These fossils are fossils of trilobites. The archaeocyte sponges naman also, they lived in the same period as the trilobites, were among the evidences of multicellular life during the Ediacaran period. So, for the Devonian period, which is the first one, the first period for the Neoproterozoic Era, Otavia antiqua, this one, an ancient sponge. it left the first animal fossils. Animal fossils and then sponge? Yes, that's correct. In taxonomy, remember that phylum Porifera is a phylum under the kingdom Animalia. Okay, so we are considering sponges as animals. The Cretaceous period naman, fossils of testate amoeba first appeared during the Cretaceous period. These are amoeba. Ibig sabihin, they are microscopic forms of life, and they have appeared during the Cretaceous period. That same period when the planet became a snowball. And then, the Ediacaran period naman, we have seen evidences of life in the form of hard-shelled foraminifera, which were unearthed from western Siberia, another form of multicellular life. This people is a trilobite. From its cute tawag doon, mas cute siya dun sa isang fossil niya, because this one doesn't really look like it's a cute thing. I am guessing that it's called trilobite because of this tail. It looks like, meron siyang tatlong tines. Tines ba? Yeah, if it's a fork. It's fork-like, right? Yeah. So, next one, the Phanerozoic Eon. Welcome to the Phanerozoic Eon. The Paleozoic Era is the longest era in the Phanerozoic Eon, which is the current eon. Nearly all invertebrate phyla and the first vertebrate phyla that include primitive fish came into existence, and these fishes, they had bony fins that eventually allowed them to crawl on land. They evolved into the first tetrapods. So we have here coelacanth, okay, and then nag-evolve siya into this, and then into crawling being after a while. Actually, parang I would like to remind you na lang, I don't think kasi this is new information, that because of some changes in the environment, because of adaptation, bodies of different organisms, their physical their bodies, they tend to evolve into new forms, depende dun sa pangangailangan ng current time kung kailan sila nabubuhay. Although there are some fish talaga na they are capable of living on land. They have amphibious characteristics despite the fact that they are considered fish. Such as yung mga, siguro just search this. Since you are on YouTube, after this video, you can search for this TED-Ed video on crawling fishes out of the water. Yeah, fish out of the water. So yeah, that is for Paleozoic Era. Now for the periods, let's begin with the Cambrian Period. Most continental land was in the southern hemisphere. Most of the land above water level are in the southern hemisphere, but they are drifting towards the north. Most of animal life naman is in oceans. They are usually arthropodic marine life. This photo, it shows you Margarisia dorus, which is a marine invertebrate. Okay, so question, is that an animal? Yes, it's an invertebrate. Paano magkakaroon ng invertebrate plant? Okay, of course, walang ganon. Okay, so next period is the Ordovician Period. There happened the Ordovician meteor event caused by the breakup of the L-chondrite body. From my reading, it looks like this thing is an asteroid. However, that did not. This meteor shower. This collision. No, let's just call it a meteor event. This meteor event did not cause any major extinction events. Now comes the Cedarian Period. Cedarian Period is it is the shortest period in the Paleozoic Era. In this photo, I want you to observe it. Okay, so yeah, that's right. This is rock, and then this is another layer of rock. This photo shows the older Ordovician mudstone right here, and the Silurian shale retrieved from Norway. Silurian shale. This is overturned because of the Caledonian orogeny. By saying orogeny, it's much like the folding or faulting or cutting of the tawag doon, of the crust. Yeah, surface of the geosphere. That is the most correct way of saying it. Surface of the geosphere. Okay, so next is the Devonian period. With high sea levels, marine life is dominating, with bryozoa, which are marine invertebrates, and brachiopods, which are animals with hard shells on the upper and on their lower surfaces. But they are not like bivalves, because bivalves naman, they have a left and right orientation. So basically, those two shells might just look like each other. But this one, meron talaga siyang pang taas, meron siyang pang babang side. Also, the Carboniferous period happened during this era. Many coal beds were formed globally, and there were many amphibians during the Middle Carboniferous times, but most underwent rapid extinction. So because of the Carboniferous forest collapse. This photo shows the Paderpes, which is the most primitive Mississippian tetrapod. A tetrapod, if I did not define it yet, is any organism that has 4 legs, crawls on 4 legs. Alright, so this may look like a cockroach to you, because yes, that is a cockroach. The most successful insects during the Permian period are the primitive relatives of cockroaches, such as the Blatoptera, right here. This fossil is a fossil of Blatoptera. By the end of this period, the Permian Triassic extinction event, the most extensive extinction event, happened, which caused the extinction of 95%. That's almost all of marine life, 70% of terrestrial life, and it took 30 million years for ecosystems to recover. The next one is the Mesozoic Era. So it is referred to as the age of reptiles and the age of conifers. The climate was generally dry. By saying reptiles anyway, let me just discuss this quickly. Reptiles are reptiles as in taxonomically considered reptiles, not just, tetrapods with scales, or animals with scales, or venomous snakes. No, not just that, but taxonomically called reptiles, considered reptiles. Conifers naman are gymnosperms, so they are propagating through cones. Ayan. These types of these organisms from both the kingdoms of animals and kingdoms of plants have proliferated during this era. The climate was generally dry, which is a trend that began in the late Carboniferous, and it was also highly seasonal. Animal life was dominated by archosaurs. So archosaurs, we mean dinosaurs, terrestrial usually, pterosaurs, which are capable of flight, and then ichthyosaurs, which are capable of swimming. So these are, the dinosaurs we know, and then pterosaurs, and flying. Okay, these naman are ichthyosaurs. It's really daunting to swim in oceans if fish look like this. They have so many teeth, and each teeth looks very sharp. And those eyes, dude, just no. No swimming for me. Alright, so the following periods happen. The Triassic period is considered to be the shortest period. During this period, secondary endosymbiotic algae became the most important plankton. Even actually to this day, yung mga plankton serve as major food source sa mga marine ecosystems. The Tanis tropheus, that is in this photo, it has a very long neck. Actually, its neck is very long, and it got me asking, parang, wait, how does it carry that? And then I realized it's swimming here, so perhaps it's it's fine. With that kind of turtle-like body and then this long neck, I don't know how will it walk on land. Will it walk forward, like head and nose in front, or tail? I don't know. Okay, so it's one of the many fossils found in Monte Giorgio, Rajasthan. Now these creatures naman, they're cute. They're really small. They were among the the organisms, especially marine organisms that were wiped out during the Triassic-Jurassic extinction event. The Triassic-Jurassic extinction event was particularly severe in marine ecosystems. It wiped out these conodonts. So yeah, these are conodonts with those kinds of teeth. As all marine reptiles except ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs, up to 22% of marine families and half of the marine genera went missing. The Jurassic period perhaps is the most familiar term because of, Jurassic World, Jurassic Park. So Pangaea has divided into Gondwana and Eurasia. The Pliensbacan-Toarcian extinction and the Tithonian extinction, these two extinction events, happened during this period. Dalawang extinction events in one period. And remember, before this period, the Triassic period, meron din nangyari doon, right? The Triassic-Jurassic extinction event. So before this, there was this extinction. There are so many extinction events that happened during this time. Various archosaur reptiles dominated most terrestrial ecosystems. So if you are going to observe, ecosystems that are thriving on land, most of them are being run by these heterotrophs. This is an Aurornis. It's a bird with those kinds of feathers. This is an artist's illustration, impression, or whatever. Aurornis. The next one comes the Cretaceous period. If we are talking about the extinction events, major extinction events for dinosaurs, perhaps we have to read about this. It caused the non-avian dinosaurs, so non-flight dinosaurs, even some flight dinosaurs such as pterosaurs, and large marine reptiles, those that are living in the water, to die out. Ornithocheirus. Ayan. So this is a flying tawag dun, dinosaur. It has survived. It's a it's an avian dinosaur. Okay, so yes, that is for the Jurassic, the Jurassics, the Triassics. Yeah. So now we move to the Cenozoic Era. The Cenozoic Era is considered as the most recent era. It is this time right now. It is called as the age of the mammals and the age of the birds because the extinction of most reptiles. Pterosaurs ba naman? Tsaka mga malalaking mga dinosaurs ba naman na mag-extinct, di ba? So their proportion in the biosphere during those times it went really small compared to the number of life that we have during those times in the entire world. Because of that, nag-proliferate yung mga usually nagiging prey nila, which are mammals, usually mammals and birds, non-reptilian birds at that. So they have diversified as well. The continents have moved to their current location. So the Tertiary Period, which was usually divided into Mississippian and Pennsylvanian, if I'm not mistaken, mammals began diversifying significantly during this period. Some thrived terrestrially, that is on land, and some in marine ecosystems sa mga waters, while some naman thrived in airborne environments, yung mga gumagawa ng nests. So, the Quaternary Period naman, it saw the extinction of most megafaunal species, yung mga mammoths, yung mga malalaking mga fauna, malalaking mga animals, okay? They have died out. Most of them have died out, which led to the decrease in the density of fauna. It is the most current period of all periods in the geologic time, this Quaternary Period. The reason why I did not include years anymore, it's because I am sure that there will be a lot of conflicts as for the division of the years. I'm just going to leave the years dun sa part na pinakita ko sa inyo, yung buong geologic time from Hadean to the most recent period. So I hope that if you want to go and parang confirm for yourself kung ilang years ba to, okay, ilang year, halimbawa, Paleozoic started in what year, how many years ago, and then ended how many years ago. If you want to get that information, just go back to that particular slide where I discussed the entire geologic time scale. Dun sa part na diniscuss natin yung division of time, yung intervals such as eons, eras, and periods. The Knowledge Catalog is a brand being developed by a teacher creator, yours truly. I am a high school teacher in the Philippines and I love developing content. I'm actually as well a writer. Okay, so yeah, it's just that I haven't found any significant time to write yet. Nevertheless, these videos are what I create to better my instruction and to share as well with some of my colleagues in school. And I am really hoping that when you see this video and if you want to have a copy of this presentation, I will gladly share this with you. If you want to have a copy, I'll give it a copy to you. So if you want to support me, you may subscribe to this channel. I will of course highly appreciate that, and leave a like. And comments, I would like to tell you that if you're going to leave a comment, please make it constructive, because during these times of the pandemic, yeah, it's still the time of the pandemic while I'm recording this, we don't need any more negativity. So you can be constructive with your criticisms. I will gladly consider them, and I will be taking note of them so that I will be able to make some revisions to the next videos I am going to create. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this.